Our reading is taken from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This is week 32. Does God hide the truth? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In last week's reading, we saw that the great masters themselves counseled discretion in the dissemination of truth. The counter-argument is sometimes made, but the Lord doesn't hide. He reveals his beauty in the sunsets, his tender sympathy in the rain, his wrath in the thunder, his restless energy in the brooks, his power in the sunlight. There are exoteric truths, and there are also esoteric truths. There is that which is revealed impersonally and left up to us to interpret, such as the thunder and our perception of it as divine wrath, the rain and our perception of it as God's sympathy. But behind even God's most open expressions, there lies impenetrable mystery. The wind blows where it wills, said Jesus in chapter 3 of the Gospel of St. John. You hear the sound of it, but you do not know where it comes from or where it is going. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. And Sri Krishna says in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, by me the whole vast universe of things is spread abroad. By me the unmanifest. In me are all existences contained, not I in them. God's hidden reality cannot be understood by the reasoning faculty. India's Shankya philosophy states frankly, Ishwar Ashidya, God is not provable. A willingness to seek the underlying reality behind appearances is essential for those who would know God. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Welcome to Sunday service. For anyone who may not know us, my name is Bharati. This is my friend Lorna, and it is our joy to be with you this morning. I want to call your attention to one of the lines from the reading that Matthew just did for us about how God's hidden reality cannot be understood by reasoning. Well, for some of us, that's probably good news because our reasoning faculties are perhaps not our greatest strength. And for other people, it's like, whoa, if I can't get it by reasoning, how in the world am I going to figure it out? So, good news, bad news. But the way we do find it out, if not by reason, is really through direct experience. We have to open ourselves. That's more likely to happen if we are conscious in our day-to-day life of putting ourselves in the best possible place where that can happen. You've all probably heard this story before. It was, and this is one version of it that I've heard, it's like someone was wondering, how is it that we have this kind of dual nature? You know, we really want to be wonderful. We want to be kind and brilliant and everything, and yet how often do we kind of stray from that? And these, at the same time, we want to be snippety or snide or just grouchy or whatever. And there was an explanation, I think, from the Native American tradition that within each of us there's two wolves, and they're fighting with each other for dominance. And so when the supplicant asked, well, who's going to win? The answer was the one you feed. So obviously, if that's the case, and I think it pretty much is, unfortunately, we want to feed ourselves with all the good qualities, just everything that we take in, that we subject ourselves to, would be helpful to us if it were the high-minded approach to life. And that can be a real challenge. I don't know about you, but I look at the news sometimes. I look at Facebook. It's easy to get caught in those less wonderful qualities. In thinking back for just a moment, with the one wolf, you know, one of the wolves exemplifies like our finest qualities of kindness and compassion, of love, of joy. And the other one, if you're going to contrast it fully, it would be like greed and hatred and violence and despair, perhaps. And for a lot of us, you think, well, you know, I'm not there. But, you know, what about irritability, discontent, judgment, self-pity? Those are things that we oftentimes find ourselves caught in. And certainly with the news, I was looking at on my, my cell phone, which has become too good a friend to me, perhaps. I have one of the apps is Oregon Live. So I thought, well, I'll find out what's going on around Oregon, my state. So I looked through there, but 8 out of 10 little articles are about, who just got killed or abused or whatever. It's just all these things that tend to bring you down, and it's so easy, for me at least, to fall into that place of, oh, ain't it awful, and how could so-and-so do such a thing? How could they be that insensitive, how awful? And, there's some truth to that. And at the same time, is it helpful to me? Is it helpful to me in my efforts to expand my little egoic self and feel my connection with all people, with all of reality, with all of the beings in the world? Not very, at least is my conclusion for myself. So that's one thing I'm trying to now control my intake. Another thing is that I find a lot is music. And I go to the Beaverton Swim Center 5 mornings a week and do my little aqua jog workout, and they often have music playing. So then, I leave, and what's going through my mind? But wish they all could be California girls, or it's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. So, and last night, I'm preparing for service, and I'm trying to be all, uplifted and together and everything. And so what's going through my mind is because of something that I had seen on Facebook. Why do I do these things to myself? It's like, now can I think of it?
Oh, good.
Maybe
now
I'm not even going to try to think of it because all night long. So then but what you can do, of course, is it's our choice what's going to be in our minds at any given moment. Things will come of themselves, but we have the choice of if we let it stay there, if we dwell on it. So instead of whatever it was, I was trying to pull in, like today's chant, one of them, Wave of the Sea. I'm the bubble, make me the sea. I can choose what's going to run through my consciousness. What is this life flowing through my veins? Can it be other than divine? Well, I suppose it could be if I let it. If I want to go there, it's still divine, but it's maybe not the most helpful thing to me in my consciousness at the moment. So there's so much choice involved. And of course, this all comes with practice. I was remembering back, many of you probably know, I've been involved with the Living Wisdom School here for the past 20 years. And Helen Gorman has as well. She's been the kindergarten teacher for the past 19 years. And I remember a few years into it, we were talking one day, and she was saying, she'd been having such a hard time with a particular group of kids. And she said, I just pray all the time for patience, all the time. And those of you who know Helen and have seen her with kids, she is one of the most patient people I've ever seen. But back then, she found it a big challenge. And what she wanted, what we all want, it's like, okay, Divine Mother, give me patience. And we want the magic wand tap that suddenly, you're patient. All right. And what instead happens, as she was soon to find out, was what you get is abundant opportunities to practice. So life is just like that. I recently spent a week at the beach with my sisters. Well, this is a trip we go on every year. This is probably 30 years now. We go together, and I have wonderful sisters, and I love them, and I like them. They're my good friends. And sometimes when we're getting in some conversation, especially if we're thinking back to our early days, I find myself being a gnarly 14-year-old. And just as an aside, for me, this is great motivation to try to become liberated in this lifetime, so I never have to be a teenage girl again. But it's another opportunity, a great opportunity to go, do I have to go into this reflex action, this thought process, where I'm going yeah, but you never washed the dishes. You always tricked me into taking your turn, blah, 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 And so it's just a matter of opportunities to practice over and over again. And are we going to blow it? You bet. Well, maybe you won't. I frequently do. And it's like the first meditation technique we often learn here at Ananda is the Hang Sa technique, where you're just watching your breath and keeping your mind just watching, not controlling. And then if your thoughts start to ramble off somewhere else, you just bring them right back. And you do that, some of us more than others, over and over and over again. I just think of Hang Sa as like one of my big challenges in life because I love it, and it's so easy to get caught and just let your thoughts keep squirreling away for a long time. But then when you do remember, it's like, oh yeah, wait, I'm supposed to be doing this instead. And then instead of actually doing that, then you beat yourself up a little bit. It's like, well, why do I always? And life is just like that. You know, when we blow it in relationships with people, in our jobs, with everything, the real trick is to just come back to center and go on from there. Like, why waste all that time having all these regrets? If you have something that you need to do to make up for what you've done, great, do it. But otherwise, let's not wallow in all those shortcomings that we all probably have so many of. The real trick, I think, at least for me, is try to just relax into the process. Relax and feel. One of the situations for me in my life that was so helpful from a very early age, before I had any idea about spirituality or anything, but the place I would feel that, feel myself be part of more than just little me, was at the beach. I remember as a child we'd go occasionally, not that often, but just walking at the edge of the water, my feet in the ocean. I would always feel like something more was going on, and I was part of it. So that was always a great experience for me, and I loved it. Then later on, about 20-odd years ago, I had an opportunity to go on a pilgrimage to India. And it was one of those funny things. It's like, I didn't want to go. I had no interest in going. I thought, okay, it's going to be hot. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be depressing. Why would I want to do this, But Divine Mother has her ways, she was getting in my face. And so finally I said, okay, I'll put in a deposit. And the trip was full. There weren't even any openings. But I kept getting that, you're going. So I took my little deposit and I went to the person who was in charge of registration. I said, okay, take this, put me on the waiting list, and then I'm going to, pray that I don't have to actually do it. And of course, Divine Mother, having her way with me, said, the person said, oh, are you serious about this? Because somebody has just withdrawn, and nobody else who's on the waiting list has put in a deposit. And, at that point, I knew it was a done deal. And I went. And was it hot, dirty, depressing? Sometimes, but wasn't my overall experience at all. One day, we went to, we were in Rishikesh, I believe, and there's a little beach that we call Ananda Beach, and we get into the Ganges River. And I tell you what, I got in, and it was really cold that year. Didn't matter. I was just transfixed. I did not want to ever get out of that river. I just felt so much not myself anymore, so much more than myself. It was that real experience of, your great soul self everywhere, and that's where I just wanted to be. And at some point, though, I'm with a group of people. You can't really stay there forever, or just pick up your feet and go down the river. I thought, that wouldn't be so helpful to the rest of the group. And so it's easy to think, well, sure, if you've got $1 bazillion and lots of time that you can take off work, you can go on a pilgrimage to India, and maybe you can do that. But it doesn't have to be anything so extreme. What I often do now is in the morning, I'll take my coffee and I'll just go sit in my backyard. And it's been all fixed up. There's little flowers around everywhere. And I just soak up, again, that expanded spirit and feel myself part of the flowers, part of the peeling paint on the deck. But the trees and the grass and And if I see someone out watering, it's so much easier for me in nature, initially at least, to feel that expansion and connection with all that is. Yesterday was, many of you I know have heard of the Ananda monastic orders, the sadhakas and sevakas. Well, yesterday was the sevaka retreat that happened down at Ananda Village, but fortunately they had streaming video, so I was watching that yesterday, and Jyotish had this great analogy. I don't know where he comes up with these things. I'm sure they're universally rooted, but he was just talking about how, and I really appreciated this because of the weather, how in the beginning, if we want to be cool, we take a fan in our hand, and we're, doing it. And does it cool you off if you're not thumping your microphone? Yes, it does. And that's like our early efforts to be who we want to be on our own, with our own power, with our own strength, with our own knowledge. But he said, you get to a certain point, and when you feel that life flowing through your veins, that's like when you are able to turn on an electric fan, and you do not have to be doing that anymore. You just are in the flow of the cooling air. And I thought that was amazing, and just what a great thought to think at some point we're not responsible for everything that happens through us. It's so important, I think, to see God as the doer, to feel that it's the universal energy, the divine flow that can come through us and help things work a lot better than we could do it on our own. So I thought it might be kind of fun to just have a little experience right now of that life flowing through our veins, the consciousness flowing through our brains, by doing a little thing together. So I'm going to ask you to stand up, and we're going to do just a couple of the very beginning of the energization exercises. So if you need to, go sideways or whatever, so you're not going to whack anyone. So we're just going to do the double breathing with palms touching. If you don't know it, just kind of follow along. We're going to tense up with a double breath and relax down. Thank you. Now you can be seated. And then just, if you feel to, close your eyes and just be aware of the energy filling you, the divine energy. And then I want each of you to focus on one of the facets of God. It might be light or sound, love, wisdom, calmness, power, joy, peace, whatever you can relate to most strongly, and just hold that thought, hold that energy, bring it up to your spiritual eye, to the point between the eyebrows. And feel yourself just as a channel, and that's God's energy flowing through your body into your brain. And then we're going to radiate that quality, whatever it may be, as much as you can feel it, as clear a channel as you can be, out to touch the hearts of everyone. So let's just feel that for a moment or two. And then we'll send it out with Om. Om. And I'll conclude with a reading from Whispers from Eternity, Yogananda's book of prayer demands and poems. This is always the tough part of preparation for service, is choosing one. This one's number 46. When the sparks of cosmic creation flew from under thy crucible of love, I danced with all the lights that heralded the coming of myriad worlds. I am a little spark of thy joyous cosmic fire. O thou Son of Life, as thy nectar poured into the little cups of human minds, filled with molten liquid of vital sparks, they thought to contain thy golden infinity in the smallness of their human feelings. In each fragile, undulating mirror of human flesh, I see reflected thy restless dance of omnipresent power. In the lambent waters of life, I behold thy ever-steady, almighty life. Teach me, Christ-like, by the power of concentration, to still the restless storms of desire raging on the lake of my mind. Stilling those waters, I lovingly behold thy unruffled face of cosmic stillness. Cause the little wave of my life to subside, that thy consciousness in me spread out to become thine own vastness. Let me feel my heart throbbing in thy breast, my feet moving with thy energy, thy breath breathing through mine, thy energy actively moving my arms, thy thoughts weaving all the thoughts in my brain. When I cry, thy soft sigh within me wakens me to thy joy. In thy playfulness, little bubble visions of thy creation float dancingly in the chamber of my dreams, which manifest in my sleep of delusion. Thy meteoric will courses through the skies of my own willpower. Make me feel that it is thou who art I. O make me thyself, that I behold my little bubble of self, ever floating in thee. We'll have just a moment of silence.
Home is a wind blowing better